It's a great time to get connected to what's going on in your community. Sign up for Fox 5's daily email newsletters like the Morning Brief and get contest updates and breaking news alerts sent straight to your inbox. Sign up now at fox5atlanta.com/email.
This is a Fox 5 News special report.
I'm Christine Spiro. We are breaking into programming to hear from Atlanta police and city officials about this afternoon's shooting of an Atlanta police officer. They are giving us an update at Grady Memorial Hospital now. Let's listen in.
I want to start by just expressing the gratitude of this department for the excellent work of Grady Hospital today and in responding to the injuries our officers sustained, and just acknowledging the graces that Almighty God had over our department today with our officers. I wanted to start with that. This afternoon at approximately 1:15, the Atlanta Police Department was attempting to apprehend an armed robbery and aggravated assault perpetrator, which we believe was on Old Hateville Road. That person was wanted for a robbery and an aggravated assault with a firearm that occurred in October of last year. This perpetrator was a known documented gang member within the city. The officers were able to identify the individual. Officer moved in to take him into custody, at which time a physical fight ensued between the officer and the perpetrator. That perpetrator was able to retrieve a firearm that we believe he was carrying at the time, fired at the officer, striking him multiple times. And then the perpetrator fled into the apartment complex. The Atlanta Police Department immediately started operating in two modes: save the life of the officer, get him here to Grady Hospital, and also to apprehend the individual that was now an imminent threat to that particular neighborhood. Those two things were executed flawlessly. The officer was brought here to Grady Hospital, and our officers in very short order was able to locate the perpetrator, take him into custody, no further injuries to officers or that community that he had tried to attempt to find shelter into. At this time, the officer is here at the hospital in stable condition. He is seriously injured. He is able to communicate with his co-workers. He's able to communicate with his family and members of the command staff that you see around me. He will have a long road of recovery before him. But this department will not be deterred. What happened today is the challenge that we are against here in Atlanta and in cities across this country, where individuals are heavily armed, heavily proliferation of guns, and are loose in our communities, causing harm to police officers who are being assaulted at record levels across the country and placing communities in imminent harm. But this department will not be deterred. We're going to continue to stand in the gap. We will continue to apprehend these individuals and bring them before courts so that our cases can be properly adjudicated. And I want to commend the men and women of this department today that did not shirk from their duties, but continue to pursue this felon and take him into custody so he cannot harm anyone else. We also want to thank the Fulton County Sheriff's Department as well as the FBI who have extended their help today. We also want to thank Mayor Dickens, who did respond to the hospital, was able to spend some brief time with the officer while he was being cared for by the Grady physicians here. And we don't have many questions that we can answer because this is still in its preliminary phases, but anything else I can answer, I will.
Can you clarify, did you say that that perpetrator had a firearm and struck the officer with it?
He fired the firearm, ma'am, and struck the officer multiple times.
Wasn't like a pistol whipping situation?
No, ma'am. I would like to clarify that. The perpetrator fired the weapon. That weapon was discharged. That weapon struck the officer with projectiles multiple times.
Was the suspect alone, or was anybody with him?
At the time that he was apprehended, he was by himself.
Do you know his name?
We will be releasing that at the appropriate time.
Where was the officer injured?
The officer has multiple injuries that will be released at the appropriate time.
And are you releasing his name yet? And was he part of a gang task force?
This particular officer was part of a unit within the department that was seeking out felons, wanted persons today. We will release time on the department, assignment, age at the appropriate time. This is just a few hours old, So we do not want to get ahead of ourselves, make sure we have notified everyone that needs to be notified. But our public affairs office will be releasing that for your later stories and coverage.
Was this an ambush situation, or was there interaction between the suspect and the officer before?
This individual was armed, and this individual was looking to cause harm at the appropriate time. It happened to be an Atlanta police officer that was able to intervene before he robbed anyone else, assaulted anyone else.
You said there was a fight that ensued, and then the suspect himself was armed, took out a gun, and entered the officer?
That is correct. We don't know where he had the weapon. So we believe he had that weapon on him at the time the officer engaged him.
Which gang was it?
We'll provide that for you at appropriate time, sir.
Gotcha.
Can you put this into context? How many officer-involved shootings where your officers had been hurt where this runs?
Well, you can look back through the officer down page that's available to look at the toll that gun violence takes on American law enforcement. We have been blessed that this year we've had minimal occurrences, but if you look across the nation, it's occurring at a high rate, and today it happened in Atlanta, Georgia.
The area where this took place, that's a hot spot, right? Like, the city has designated hot spots that they're looking at for crime reduction. Isn't this one of them?
We were on Old Hatefield Road today, sir, because we had information this is where this individual may be, and we were there to apprehend him.
So this isn't part of the broader strategy around crime reduction?
Oh, we have a broad strategy around crime reduction that talks on just this, taking out individuals who are known to be armed, who are known to cause harm to communities.
Right.
So this was a very individual-focused approach. So we are going after individuals who are robbing citizens of this city, that are shooting citizens of this city and murdering in this city. So we knew who we were going after. It just happened to be that's where we were taken to today.
Is that area a hotspot, a known hotspot for gang activity?
I do not have the crime stats in front of me to define this particular area. What I do know is that there's citizens in this community that are law-abiding, that want to have a peaceful neighborhood, want to be able to use their parks, use their public spaces, and that's why we were there today.
Are you guys an officer what happened back in the October robbery and assault?
We're going to provide that information too. We'll be able to give you the police report that shows why we're there today.
And the officer is in surgery now?
The officer's being cared right now in the trauma center of the hospital.
All right, everybody.
What message do you want to send to other gang members who are...
answer this question.
What message do you want to send?
The Atlanta Police Department will not be deterred. This today only reinforces why we took the oath and why we're here. So every gang member should know that if you're committing crimes in this city, we're going to come and we're going to arrest you. And we're going to bring you before court.
Right,
and we will continue to stand in the gap for the citizens of this city.
And are you looking for anybody else at this time?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other danger to the community?
All right, so you're just listening to Atlanta Police give us an update on that officer who was shot earlier this afternoon. That was Deputy Chief Darren Shirebaum, who said at approximately 1:15 today they were attempting to apprehend a known gang member in the city for a warrant for aggravated assault and aggravated armed robbery of an incident that happened last year. And in attempting to arrest that suspect began fighting the officer who was trying to apprehend him. He shot that officer multiple times, and that officer is in stable condition at Grady Memorial Hospital right now. Deputy Chief Shirebaum saying that officer is seriously injured, that he has a long road ahead of him, but that he was able to communicate with hospital staff and his coworkers. So that certainly is good news. As for that suspect, they were able to apprehend that suspect pretty quickly after he tried to flee. So that suspect is in custody. Also good news here. So there is no harm, if you will, to the community as far as safety is concerned. They feel good about having the suspect in custody. But again, you heard Deputy Chief Shirebaum strongly say that the APD will not be deterred in apprehending people who are known in the community to cause trouble. So their work at APD continues. We'll certainly have much more on this officer being shot coming up here in about 20 minutes on Fox 5 News at 4. Until then, we do want to get you back to regular programming and Judge Judy, and we'll see you shortly at 4 p.m.
This has been a special report from Fox 5 News.